Hey everyone, welcome back to the fish room. We got a really fun video for you today. We are taking a closer look at this 225-gallon aquarium. This is a custom glass build full of awesome Malawian cichlids. And it's part of a dual tank rack that it's honestly a dream setup of mine because it sits on top of this 125-gallon. So you're looking at 350 gallons total. And the tank on the bottom here holds some very special cichlids from Madagascar. And you can't see them right now. They're a little skittish. We'll get them on video someday. But for today, the focus will be on the 225. And we're going to talk through today everything about this aquarium. We're going to cover the tank itself, the stocking, the equipment. So let's go ahead and get right into it and dive on in. All right, let's first talk about the tank itself. Like I said, this is a 225-gallon aquarium, and it's an all-glass DIY construction. I built this myself specifically for the fish room, and it is 7 feet long by 2 feet wide and 26 inches tall. We used 1/2-inch plate glass to build this tank, and the front panel used low iron glass to get a more clear view. And this is an all glass construction, meaning even the bracing up top is just made out of glass. We used a combination of Euro bracing and cross bracing to make it very sturdy. And what that means is there's essentially pieces of bracing running the entire perimeter of the tank. Now that in and of itself should be more than enough to keep any pieces from any of the panels from bowing. But just for added security, we're very safe here in the fish room. We also added a cross brace. And that also helps give you something to put the lids on, to rest the lids on top of. It's flat bottomed, so we actually use a piece of styrofoam between it and the stand to make sure there's no stress points on the bottom panel that might cause fractures. We have the tank supported on a custom DIY wood stand. And it's not super pretty, but most of it is hidden by the 125. And long term, we're actually going to substitute this 125. We're going to get rid of it and bring in a 150. We're going to make a 150 for this, specifically for this setup. And it will utilize this extra space here, which will cover up the remaining, this bit of wood here. But it's very sturdy, very strong. And it was kind of tough to figure out how tall to make it because we want this top tank to be low enough to where I can still reach over and drop food in, but not so low as to where this bottom tank would need to be down close to the ground. So it took some trial and error, but I think we came up with a good height for both of them. All right, let's talk a bit about the fun stuff, the fish. Now this 225 is meant to house long-term, mostly Malawian peacocks and small to medium-sized haplochromines. And that's mostly what we have in here now, with a few exceptions. For example, we do have some large haps, like these Exochromis anagenus, that are juveniles that we're just keeping in here while they grow up and get bigger. These fish get pretty big, so long term they're going to have to go in our 575-gallon. Similar story with these albino blue dolphins. These are beautiful fish. There's a non-albino, but here's the albino. And we have about 12 of these in here, also just growing up. And long term, we'll put those in the 575 as well. If you'd like a video on the 575, if you'd like that to be our next deep dive, go ahead and let me know in the comments. But long term, we're going to have mostly peacocks, like this Alonocara Stewart Grantai high reef, sometimes known as a blue neon. We also have some otter point peacocks, and we even have an albino Alonacara Stewart Grantai right here. This is a beautiful fish, and I am looking forward to breeding a ton of them and putting them out in a hobby. We have some medium-sized haps in here, like these deep water haps, as well as these Statotilapia caliptera. Back there, they're beautiful, and those are subadults. They're more lime green right now, but you can see their blues starting to come in, as well as the red trim around the fins right there. Yeah, so that blue will just become more intense as they grow up. We also have some Mbuna in here, just these yellow labs, and they'll probably stay in here long term. They cohabitate pretty well with peacocks, and they're a nice vibrant splash of yellow. We also have some Mylochromis. This is a Mylochromis laterastriga, sometimes known as a basket hat. And they'll stay in here long term as well. They don't get too big. This is another subadult, like most of the fish in this tank right now. And his blues are just, oh, they're starting to come in. You can see them right there. Now, as they mature, they'll develop more intense blues and also shades of aquamarine. And I've even seen bits of orange in other Mylochromis species. So they're beautiful. We've got one male in this tank along with two females. Here's one of the females. So that covers all the fish that we have in here currently. Long term, we're going to move out some of the bigger haplochromines and replace them with more peacock species. We have a group of lemon jakes growing up in a separate tank. So this will also hold some beautiful lemon jakes. And we'll get a few other peacock species. I'm not sure which ones yet. We'll have plenty of space once some of the other fish get moved out. So that'll be a fun thing to later down the road decide which peacocks we want to put in here. And hey, if you got any suggestions, drop them in the comments below. This deep water hap right here, oh, he's got some good colors going on right now. All right, let's talk a bit about the equipment. The filter we're running on this is a Fluval FX4. I would have loved for it to be a Fluval FX6, but there were actually some limitations around that. So I ended up with a FX4, but that combined with a sponge filter here in the back and sufficient water changes, it gets the job done. As far as lighting, we have two Fluval 3.0 LED lights, one 4-foot and one 3-foot. These are powerful lights and they're definitely really bright, but for this tank, I wanted it to be very well lit. And the great thing about Malawian cichlids is they're not shy at all from the light. Some fish, being too bright, they'll hide a lot. But these fish are out and about no matter what. For heating, we use an Aquatop heater. Now, Aquatop in and of itself isn't generally regarded to be the top-end brand, like your Eheims or Fluvals. But this is actually a higher-end version of their heaters. It's their titanium heater, and it actually comes with this this separate readout controller, and it's a 400 watt. And I found it to be very reliable. I've had it for some time now, and it's heated on its own some very big tanks, and it hasn't burnt out. And it's also not made out of glass, so it's pretty well shatter resistant, which is important in a tank with big fish that move around a lot. So I'm not a huge fan of the brand, but this specific heater is actually, I really like it. This tank, like all the other tanks in the fish room, are on Indiana tap water, which is very hard, very high pH. It's affectionately known as liquid rock. And we don't do anything to adjust that, which it actually works out pretty well for tanks like this that have African cichlids in them, because these fish are generally known to be much more suited to hard, high pH water. So they thrive in it very well. If you have softer water, you can still keep African cichlids. You just might want to maybe incorporate something in the substrate, such as crushed coral or other, methods of raising your hardness and pH. But as far as temperature goes, we keep these guys right around 77. I've kept Africans as low as 75 and as high as, 79 up to 80. I think that 77, 78 mark is right in that sweet spot. I think it's a good temperature for these types of fish. There is some good flow in this tank, in this water, with the FX4 filter. You can see right here how it does create some good surface agitation, and that's definitely a decent flow. And beyond the actual water parameters, you just need to keep your water nice and clean, like with any fish. Just, do your regular water changes, make sure your filtration is sufficient, and your fish will do just fine. But hey, that's all we have for today. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive on the 225-gallon aquarium. I am so excited to see all these fish grow and mature and incorporate new species in the future. And I'll be sure to share those updates with you guys. And we'll also have other tank deep dives to look forward to in the future, such as our 575 African cichlid tank and even this 125 Madagascan cichlid tank, which, the fish again are still hiding, but these are actually, this tank right here is the most prized tank I have in the whole fish room because of the fish that are in it. So one day we'll get them to come out and I'll share those with you guys as well. But till then, thanks again for watching and I can't wait to see you next time. Take it easy, everyone.